Hello teachers, we are going to talk about the Scopus theory. To begin with this topic, we must say that the word Scopus is a technical term to refer to the translation and the action of translating. This word in Greek means aim, a purpose, and this theory was created by Hans J. Vermeer in 1970s and formalized in a book co-written with Katharina Reis in 1984. Although this theory is considered to be part of the translatorial action theory created by Holz-Manthady, both theories are very similar, but the difference between them is that the Scopus theory was created before the translatorial action, and this one was based in the other theory, and the theory we're talking about.
I am going to present the theory and the rules. Scopus theory focuses on the purpose of the translation, which determines the translation methods and strategies that are to be employed in order to produce a functionally adequate result. This result is the translated text, which Vermeer calls the translatum. An important advantage of Scopus theory is that it allows the possibility of the text being translated in different ways according to the purpose of the translated text. An advantage of Scopus theory is that it allows the same text being translated in different ways according to the purpose of the translated text. Knowing why a source text is to be translated and what the function of the translated text will be are crucial for the translator. These are the basic underlying rules of the theory according to Reis and Vermeer. A translatum or translated text is determined by its scopus. A translated text is an offer of information in a target culture, and translated language concerning an offer of information in source culture. A translated text does not initiate an offer of information in a clearly reversible way. A translated text must be internally coherent. A translated text must be coherent with the source text. The 5 rules above stand in hierarchical order with the Scopus rule predominating.
Now I'm going to explain a little bit more about these rules. Rule 2 is important because it relates the source text and the target text in their respective cultural context. Rule number 3 indicates that the function of a translatum in its target culture is not necessarily the same function as in the source language. And then last but not least, the 4th and 5th rules that talks about general Scopus rules. Number 4 is talking about the coherence rules, which means that the target text must have sense and a meaning to be understandable to the audience who's going to read it. And then the 5th rule that talks about the fidelity rule means that there must be coherence between the source text and the target text.
The coherence rule states that the target text must be interpretable and coherent with the target text receiver situation. In other words, the target text must be translated in such a way that it is coherent for the target text receivers, given their circumstances and knowledge. The fidelity rule states that there must be a coherence between the translatum and the source text, more specifically between 1. The source text information received by the translator, 2. The interpretation the translator makes of this information, 3. The information that is encoded for the target text receivers. The nature of the target text is primarily determined by its scopus or commission and adequacy. Vermeer describes the commission as comprising a goal that should be achieved. The translator should, as the expert, be able to advise the commissioner or client on the feasibility of the goal. Adequacy describes the relations between source text and target text as a consequence of observing a scopus during the translation process. In other words, if the translated text fulfills the scopus outlined by the commission, it is functionally and communicatively adequate. Equivalence is reduced to functional constancy between source text and translated text. Those cases where the function is the same for the source text and the translated text.
Christian Nord and Schaffner discuss that the scopus theory tries to be general for all texts, but is not valid for non-literary texts because this kind of texts have no specific purpose and usually are far more complex stylistically. They say that the scopus theory doesn't pay sufficient attention to the linguistic nature of the source text, nor to the reproduction of the smallest parts in the target text. Even if the scopus is adequately fulfilled, it might be inadequate in the semantic level or the text style. And for last, some critics consider unnecessary the use of the word translatum, which is introduced by Vermeer, because there are other terms already to refer to it.